The 90s may be seen by a lot of people as the last great decade for country music, but it wasn't a great sound of music that came to Nashville overnight. Many years artists paid their dues in the decades before the 90s, and the artists from the past decade would lay the groundwork for the sound to come. With country music losing its edge in the early 80s, many felt that pop country was the future of the country sound. As we look at each year from the 80s to the end of the 1990s, we find that pop country was a dividing influence on the sound of the 90s, as well as the raw country sounds of the past. The artists that grew up in the pop country era would take sounds, mixing it with old style country for a new neo-pop country that was true to its roots and made a lasting impression for years to come.
I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride, with a sword and pistol by my side.
In 1977, American singer-songwriter Jimmy Webb wrote and recorded Highwayman, a song that told the story of four workers on their final day, one a sailor, one a construction worker on the Hoover Dam, a pilot, and finally, the Highwayman. The song told the story of reincarnation and was influenced by a real-life hanged highwayman, Jonathan Wild. In 1979, Glenn Campbell would record his version of the song for his Highwayman album.
I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side.
The song would fade into obscurity until 1985, when four legends of country music would team up to take it to number one. The Highwayman Band was made up of Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and Kris Kristofferson. In the past few years of country music, pop country was starting to lose some of its power after the fading of the urban cowboy craze. The Highwayman single would stay in the hot country charts for 20 weeks, showing that the legends of country music, who had all been performing since the 60s, was still a driving force, and a voice that the country fans wanted to hear.
It's great to be here, thank you. We've had a pretty good run, these next guys and me. These other three fellas, we've been across the country and around the world together, and there's still no one that I'd rather introduce than my musical comrades, Kris Kristofferson, Waylon Jennings, and a babyface kid from Texas named Willie Nelson. They call us the Highwaymen.
The song was first pitched to Waylon a few years before, when Jimmy Webb himself suggested that Waylon record it. Waylon, who only had heard Glenn Campbell's version of the song, turned it down, feeling it wasn't the right fit for him. In 1984, while the Highwaymen was working on their album, Glenn Campbell played the song for Johnny Cash, and it was once again turned down. Marty Stewart would then play the song for Johnny Cash and explained that it was perfect because it told the story of four people, just like the group. Still nothing. That was until Glenn Campbell played it one more time, this time playing it for all four. This time, something just clicked. Not only did they know that this song was the right fit for them, but they also felt it was the right name for the band and the album.
I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride.
To help sell the song, the group made a music video. It was shot in black and white, with each actor singing their own part, as we see the ill-fated ending to each character. Each singer is shown in the sky singing their part, with the video ending of the four legends becoming the face of Mount Rushmore. The song would win a Grammy for the Best Country Song of the Year, as well as the AMC for Single of the Year.
Barbara, give us the news, would you?
Okay. The winner is Single Record of the Year, Highwayman.
On behalf of CBS Records, I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank the many radio stations who programmed this incredible record. Great producer, Mr. Chips Moman. And four great artists, Mr. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Kris Kristofferson, the Highwaymen. Thank you.
First, let's meet their challengers. Featuring lead singer Mark Miller, they're a group from Nashville called Sawyer Brown.
to see everybody's up on their feet.
Country music still had its more pop adult side, but one thing it was lacking was bubblegum pop music. Bubblegum pop music is mostly known as music with a catchy upbeat style aimed for a more younger crowd. Many critics would give that title to CMA's Horizon Award winners Sawyer Brown. The band would often get criticized for putting style before substance. However, the members of Sawyer Brown never saw their act anything like that. Bubblegum pop or not, fans were loving it.
And the winner is
Sawyer Brown.
In 1984, their single Leona would make it to number 14, but their follow-up in 1985 would go all the way to the top.
Well, Mama told me when I was freeload, still never get you nowhere. It ain't street car jumping and backbeat bum and get along like it in there.
Step That Step would be their only number one song in the 80s, as it seemed the band was just too flashy for country music fans. As country music radio was starting to swing back to a more traditional sound, it seems there were no place for the band Sawyer Brown. But all that would change in the 90s when Sawyer Brown would become one of the most successful bands of that decade.
You was laughing at me, I was doing James Dean. You was the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. When you rolled your eyes and twirled my pink furred eyes.
I'm here to present the award for the Male Vocalist of the Year.
The CMAs for 1985 was mostly a repeat of the past winners. Reba McEntire would take home Female Vocalist of the Year, while George Strait took home the award for Male, and he would also take home Album of the Year for Does Fort Worth Ever Cross Your Mind?
Well, do I look nervous? I really appreciate this very much. I'll never forget this night as long as I live.
The judge would continue their winning streak with Single of the Year with Why Not Me, and would also pick up Vocal Group of the Year. The Entertainer of the Year for 1985 would go to Ricky Skaggs.
Y'all forgive me, but I'm going to have to read a little bit. I didn't want to come up here and get all excited and not thank a bunch of people, so I'm real sorry for reading this. I hope y'all forgive me, because I didn't plan this, believe me.
One artist would pick up his 27th number one and a Grammy for Lost in the 50s Tonight. Ronnie Milsap would have a career most artists could only dream up. He would have 42 number one singles, a record that would not be broken until George Strait did it in the mid-2000s. Ronnie was born in North Carolina in 1943 and was soon abandoned by his mother and then raised by his grandparents in the Smoky Mountains until age 5 when he was sent to North Carolina State School for the Blind and Deaf. Quickly, Ronnie would fall in love with music that he would hear late at night on the radio, from gospel to country to rhythm and blues. He would study at the Classic Music School Moorhead and there learned to play several instruments and would master the piano. Ronnie would go on to pursue a career in music with local success in the 60s, but things would change in 1972 when he moved to Nashville. Before moving, he would meet Charlie Pride, who came to one of his shows at the Whiskey A Go-Go on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. This would lead to a meeting and working with Charlie Pride's manager, and he would soon sign a deal with RCA Records in 1973. His first single, I Hate You, hit number 10.
And I'm trying to hate you right out of my mind.
His first number one, Pure Love, would hit in 1974 and start a string of number ones, such as A Legend in My Time, Daydreams About Night Things, Stand By My Woman Man, It Was Almost Like a Song, Smoky Mountain Rain, just to name a few.
But tears filled my eyes when I found out she was gone. Smoky Mountain rain keeps on falling. I keep on calling her name.
Mel McDaniel would see a lot of hits in the 80s, but he would score his biggest with the number one hit in 1985 with a song about a girl wearing blue jeans. Conway Twitty was first given the song, but he thought it would be a better fit for John Anderson, so he had the song sent over. John would turn it down and later say that he didn't know it came from Conway Twitty. And if he did, he would have took a more serious thought about covering the song. The song would then land in the hands of Mel McDaniel, who would record it and take it to number one on his 1985 album, Let It Roll.
Cause you seem it just comes naturally. No, the girl can't help it. Well, up on Main Street, by the taxi stand, there's a crowd of people and a traffic jam.
It's rare for an actor to be taken seriously when they decide to jump into the music business, but one artist was showing country music he was more than just a hit on a small screen, but also could be a hit in the country music charts. John Schneider was well known to most people as Bo Duke on the very successful TV show Dukes of Hazzard, but John wanted to give his other love a try, music. Although his first single, a cover of Elvis Presley's Is Now or Never, would hit number 4 in 1981, it seemed that things after that just wasn't going to work for John in the music business. A number 13 song would follow up, but nothing after that could crack the top 30. That was until 1984, when he had 2 number 1s in a row, I've Been Around Enough to Know and Country Girls, which showed Nashville that he was more than an actor trying to go country.
But Lord, I swear there's nothing anywhere that's better than a country girl. Ain't nothing better nowhere, There's country girls are sweeter than Tupelo honey.
In 1985, 3 more top 10 singles would hit radio, with You're the Last Thing I Needed Tonight going to number 1. A few more hit singles would follow, but John would take a break to focus more on acting than his country music career.
You're the first thing that I'll need tomorrow, and you're the last thing that I needed tonight.
It might seem looking back that country music was soaring big with fans and sales. However, the truth is, after the urban cowboy craze, things for country music were starting to die down. Sure, there were some artists having huge success, like George Strait, The Judds, Alabama, and a few more. But overall, record sales for the last few years has started to tank. While the urban cowboy craze had pulled in some younger fans, overall, the fans of country music were older, who normally didn't buy the records. Country records are getting plenty of record play, but they all sound alike and no one's buying them, Bobby Bare would tell the New York Times in 1985. Bill Carter, a Nashville manager for a lot of country music stars, said that the producers of country music are just making the same formula of records over and over again. They only cared about sales and making what radio stations would play. It seemed country music, or at least those running country music, was not willing to take risks or try anything new to bring life back to country music. The first lady of country music would say if things didn't change soon, they would all go out of business. Artists that were selling 500,000 albums in the 70s were now lucky if they could sell 400,000 records. The average record sales for a number 1 country album was 100,000. It wasn't just new artists having hard times. Legends like Conway Twitty couldn't break over 150,000 copies of his 1984 album. Crystal Gayle, who had a huge hit singles, could only sell 80,000 copies of the album that the singles came from. This would affect every artist on every label. Bobby Bare would go on to say that some people will miss country music, but those people aren't the ones buying it. The New York Times would declare country music is dead in their 1985 article. It seemed country music was fading out of fashion, but things were about to get shook up in 1986 when a floodgate of new artists would show Nashville that country music was alive and well. A troubled young man from North Carolina, a hillbilly from the streets of LA, a Kentucky bluegrasser, and a Texas singer-songwriter would kick up a renaissance in country music and bring with it record sales unseen before in Nashville, as the birth of neo-traditional country would take over country radio and change things almost overnight.